Kathleen. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Would you like to do a roll call?
Certainly. Trustee Anson?
Here.
Trustee Doro?
Here.
Trustee Meyers?
Here.
Trustee Walschlager? Here. Trustee Ludke?
Here.
Trustee Connor?
Here.
President Vanderstoel?
Here. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Trustee Anson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go. Do we have anybody that would like to speak in public comments? You can come towards the podium now, or if we have anybody on the Zoom meeting. Seeing as we don't have anybody for public comments, we have our first item, which is a consideration of a motion to approve the village board minutes from the December 14th, 2020 meeting.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. The next item we have is consideration of a motion to approve the vouchers for payment in the amount of $428,942.20.
I'll move to approve the vouchers in the amount of $428,942.20.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of actions that are related to licenses and permits. Our first being a consideration of an application for an operator's license that is recommended for denial. Our chief is here. If there's any questions, we did receive a description of the reason for that. In fact, I believe that this might be a situation where we don't have a choice. I'll let chief speak.
I did draft a memo for everyone to look at. It's in regard to this particular issue, and it's recommending denial for Daniel Pennington for an operator license due to pending court case out of Dodge County where he's looking at a felony OWI fourth offense. As you guys can recall, our state statute does not allow anyone to be licensed if they're a convicted felon. After talking through this situation, because it's not a conviction yet, but it is a pending court case for a felony charge. After talking this through with our village attorney, Chris Kinke, he had recommended that Mr. Pennington go through his court case and then reapply once the case has been adjudicated, so we have an understanding whether or not there is a felony conviction on his record.
Okay, I just want to ask, regardless of the felony conviction, there is still a chance that you would recommend, there's a chance, if it came back through, that you could recommend, you would recommend denial based on habitual offending.
Correct. There is state statute, not, the statute on a felony is very clear that it has to be, if you're a felon, you cannot have a license per the state statute. There is other statute that talks about habitual offender. Now that's open up to interpretation, and you try to just take these case by case and apply it to what they're applying for. Obviously a liquor license in this case. The case that we're hearing is a OWI case, so there is some direct correlation with that, so there is a chance of that possibly happening as well. Again, these are not always crystal clear, because when you think habitual, you look at the case as it's happening often and it's in direct relation to a license, and some of these cases are the first two, or the second and third offense occurred in 2014, so then there was a period of time before this fourth offense did happen, but it is directly related to the license, in this case being an operator's license.
Thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, chief.
Thank you, Chief.
I'll make the motion to deny the operator's license as read.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to deny the license for Daniel Pennington. Any discussion?
I guess the one thing I was thinking and add into it to Chief's point too is, how it relates to what we're trying to do, but I looked at this kind of like, okay, if he has problems with DWI and now he's gonna be a bartender, is he really gonna have the sense to stop somebody when they hit their max before they walk out and do something else if he can't control himself, let alone help somebody else or do that? So to me, it just kind of correlates that it's a smart thing to do is to deny it based on the pending felony, but then just the habitual acts that he's done himself.
Any others? All in favor of the denial? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried, that license is denied. We now have a list of operators, bartenders licenses, that is for quite a few people. Alexia Kiram, Gabriel Snyder, Sarah Hatton, Matthew Long, Chelsea Moretti, Teresa Busky, and Delaney Valade, or Valade, I'm not sure on the pronunciation, so my apologies to that person if I'm not pronouncing it
I'll
properly.
make a motion to approve the bartender's license for the 7 people that, as read.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve those licenses as they were read. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Abstain.
That motion is carried. The licenses are granted to those people. Now we have items that were referred from our December 21st, 2020 Plan Commission meeting. I think some of you are pretty familiar with this one, but this is discussion and presentation of Sandhill Condominium Development PUD Petition General Development Plan. They are here. If you'd like, gentlemen, like to come and announce yourselves and begin.
Thank you, sir. Jim Seatman from Seatman Realty and my brother John Seatman. We were asked to come in and do a short presentation to the board. We've been to the Plan Commission twice. Second time was with the General Development Plan, which is before you this evening. It's basically the same plan that you saw when we came in and just gave a concept viewing for you. But we did a few modifications according to what the Plan Commission desired from the first visit to the second one. And we'll just go through those really briefly with you. As you all know, sewer and water and utilities have been reviewed by Ruckert Milke, and we have capacity here for those. We're proposing these to be all private streets and private sewer and water system. We moved, if you recall, when we were here before you, there was 2 residents from the east in Walnut Grove that complained about how close we were to them at that court that John's pointing out. We have moved that court over about 50 feet. Now there's over 80 feet from the back of the building to that property line for them. We also, the Plan Commission wanted to understand the full development totality of the area. We own the 60 acres that we're proposing to develop now, plus the 40 acres to the west. And so we did an overall general development plan showing how they integrate between the 60 acres and the 40. And we did add a street off of the 60 that comes over to Winkleman, and then that would continue across Winkleman and develop that southeastern corner of the 40 that we have. To the northwest, we also have that showing that could tie into Newman's project in the future, and there's a well site there for the village ultimately on that site. There's an overall master trail system on this. That's all paved trails. The trail system, staff has asked for the perimeter trail to be public, and the internal trail will be private, very similar to Windrush that we did to the south, and that will be accommodated as well. We also showed the buildings. I think you saw the buildings, but the 4-family, we only had one design for that building, and we thought it would be better to get multiple designs for that, so we have put those together so that they'll look a little different, and gave the Plan Commission a palette of colors and materials for those buildings as well. So that kind of covers the highlights of the development. There hasn't been a whole lot changed to it. We're asked to come to you and show it to you and get your feedback. Hopefully that's a positive feedback, because our next step is a lot of energy and cost to get the general development plan and engineering done, so we can bring that back to the Plan Commission and you and set a public hearing.
So the question is about the water, privately owned water proposal. So you're gonna have, you've got the pipes going through there and you're responsible for it. You're just gonna use our water.
That's correct.
Now, are you gonna be using our sewer too?
Yes,
And are you gonna collect the connection charge or does that go to the village?
yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, you'll collect that charge.
We'll collect for the village or for you?
No, for the village.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, is there any reason that, we got a well that we planned many years ago. You will not be able to do any private well drilling up in that area?
We don't plan for any well drilling.
You don't plan on it, okay. So the amount of capacity that you're gonna be pulling through there, I know when we planned it out, it was planned out for the first floor. What about that second floor? That's no problem with Rooker and Milk either?
That is no problem at all.
And the sewer's over to that side already, or is that gotta be installed?
That's sewer right now. We have sewer for the 60 over, and that 40 are you asking about? There is sewer that came up through Newman's project on the Stubb Street, and that sewer will serve that whole 40.
Okay. So any of the problems with the sewer or the water that needs to be replaced, that would be your responsibility? We'd fix it?
No, we would fix it.
You would fix it? To the specifications that we have?
That's correct.
And it's always scary.
It's,
There's different sized pipes and there's different depths and, there's been some problems with some initial laying out of the sewer and the water. It can get very, very expensive. And I don't want us to get stuck in it. I don't want you to get stuck in it after your investment. So, and that's all your responsibility.
yes,
And you're supervising the install?
we will, and your building inspector will be out there spot checking the construction as well.
Okay, so all the connection charges then they'll go to, with the sewer, goes to the village, it goes to Delhart, okay.
Yep.
And the water's gonna be metered and you guys are taking care of the meter. What is that pond though, that float pond or what is that the DNR requirement?
Yes, we have stormwater ponds. There'll be 5 basins that'll have to be constructed for all the surface drainage on the site.
Our friends at the DNR need that extra area. All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else with questions or?
So we just, there's no formal action by the code for this tonight for the village board. We just, as a developer mentioned, we just wanted to bring this back, let the board get a once-over on it, and before they go forward and spend some money, and we start working on PUD and engineering plans, just get one more, take one more look at it. Any more feedback? We had some good comments. But there's no, there's no formal part of this process right now. This is more of just a presentation.
And it's good because it gets it, people can see it. It's different than it was before we were all here. And did you have anything that you want, as the board representative on the plan commission, do you want to, did you have anything you wanted to add?
We just got brought back on. We were taken offline when Mike was talking,
Okay,
but I have asked all my questions. I didn't quite understand how the private water and sewer worked, but I did talk to them after the meeting, and I think I understand it better now.
okay.
And no, I had no other questions on it.
Okay. Well, I just, for the sake of just making sure the board knows, and obviously, and I'm gonna, stress this just like I did the plan commission to make sure that it's out there. Obviously, anybody that has any questions, obviously you can contact the administrator or even ask the administrator and say, hey, I want to contact, the developer, or if all of a sudden there are concerns. Obviously, one of our biggest things, and I think this board is pretty in lockstep on this, is that we don't do things the way that they used to be done, where all of a sudden any corners get caught. They're trying to rush things to save money, but we just do it right up front. The price point is a little bit lower than what Newman was pushing forward, so that gets us down, and we may be in the 400 range. The market's gonna dictate that. I know that makes it tough.
Correct.
But that's one thing some people on the plan commission were happy with. I do trust that Ryan Antman, I think it was smart of us to look into it to say, is there capacity for it? But the plan commission did feel that it did meet, even though we just went through our comprehensive plan and that kind of thing. There will need to be a zoning change here for this to go as it is, and it'll still also need a PUD. But the plan commission felt that it was not only a benefit to Hartland, people always say tax revenues and this and that, but it helps that area. One thing that was talked about a little bit is, there might be added traffic and something like that. Keep in mind that for these units going in, there is about 280 other units going up within, I believe, 1 mile of that, in the towns and other places. So, Hartland can't be the one that has to carry the brunt of the storm and say, okay, you guys build everything and we'll just keep the roads clear. But the plan commission felt that it was in the best interest of the village for this plan.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
think
Thank
that,
you.
there is no formal action that needs to be taken, so this will just keep rolling along, and I'm sure it will be not too long before we'll see you again.
Yeah, it was really nicely laid out.
Thank you.
It was
See you
very
next
easy to
year.
follow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Oh, bye, Hector.
Okay. Now we have other items for consideration. We have a consideration of a motion to approve the Hartland Business Improvement District 2021 operating plan and budget.
Also move that we approve it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Business Improvement District's operating plan and budget for 2021. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Next item is discussion and possible action on Von Bryson annual engagement letter. No, he just left. I thought that's why he was here, wasn't it?
I'm breezing.
Is that why he was here?
I don't think so, but I'm not sure. I did not communicate with him. So.
Would the board like to hear from Hector? I thought that's why he was
I'm
here.
kind of curious of why we're not.
Can we take a
getting this out.
30-second recess? I'm gonna run and grab him. Or Captain Kelsey, could you ask Hector to come back in? Thank you.
Can I ask why we're not bidding this out?
That was my question that I
That's,
had.
that's what we can, I thought he
Well,
was
it's
gonna
not
come up.
his choice, it's ours, for
Oh, no,
getting bids, active bids for the attorney. I thought we made agreements that we would, before any of these came up to contract and put before us again, we would have it out.
No, we can do that because the agreement, we can do that.
Okay.
We can make the decision just to do that right now. I was going to have him speak because the contract is coming up at the end, and now this is a renewal letter, if I'm not mistaken, for 2021.
Right.
So I want to at least be able to ask for an extension instead of going a month and a half or 2 months without an attorney. If people were to, if the board were to say no, you know what I mean? Hector, I already read the item, right?
You did.
Okay, so I didn't know if you were gonna give a presentation on your letter that you had put forth. Which is fine. If it were to happen that the board wanted to bid out to see what's out there, if the board went that way and decided on that, would there be coverage after January, or in January of 2021 as we go through the process? Obviously, that bidding would include yourself.
Sure.
I just wanted, you see because I just want to make sure that we're
Oh,
covered.
absolutely. In the letter, basically, you can terminate our services anytime. That's the way it's been for 30-some years. So, no need to worry about that.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah.
I just want, okay.
Yeah, and I was not planning on a presentation unless there were specific questions about how we handle things.
Right.
So,
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Hector. Thank you. Sorry to pull it
thank you
back.
for your consideration.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Okay, so as our item stands, discussion and possible action on Von Bryson annual engagement letter.
So again, put this agenda item on from the previous discussions of when annual consulting contracts or engagement letters or whatever renewals, whatever you would like to call them, they all call them something different, comes forward, that put this in front of the board and obviously let the board take action. Last time we talked about it and then ended up having a presentation, options, kind of listed, we could, renew, or we could create an RFQ or an RFP type of process and go that way. So just wanted to put it in front of the board. I don't know what there hasn't been any communication as far as interest, so kind of why that's on here. And that's also why Hector did not have any kind of presentation. We're just looking for what the next step is, whatever that might be, so.
Right.
I have a question.
You got the floor.
How does that work if we put it out for bid, and let's say they're still working on a previous case or legal action, and we hire someone else, let's say 2 months from now? How does that work with court actions that are already like in the middle of process?
What would happen is the attorney, it's their responsibility, that's part of them having their license. They notify the courts for any pending actions or anything that we have going on, that they are no longer representing us. Most likely they would go and do this together, and the new attorney would then at that time submit their letter of counsel, saying that they are the legal counsel for the village of Hartland at that time.
And then they would, both
Okay. Thank
transferring
you.
councils
Right.
together, yeah.
Right.
Good
Well, it's
question.
true that Hector's been with us forever. I mean, came with the horses and the wagons. And but Hector kind of retired and was into the retiring mode, and then Van Bison got involved. So it's not like we've had them for a long time. And I would like to see this bid out. I mean, with an engineer, we're really concerned that there's a lot of history, but in law is law. And I can't see that there's any, that outside of, know what has happened in the past is helpful, but which we have documentation for. But I just think that we should possibly look at getting some bids on this. And, I've often thought that when I've looked at different cases that we've had, Ben Bryson would hire somebody else, or we'd have to go outside of them to hire somebody that was specialized in that field.
Or they drove from there.
And, they'd bring somebody in. And I'm just wondering, economically, if we had an attorney that could do the same thing, attorney that did not have the vast surroundings of all these other, that it would be able to hire or point us in the direction that we're doing now, going outside of having just that one representation. I'd like to see a bid on it. I mean, legal expenses, I look at these things every time, every payroll, $5 and $10 and $1,000. I think we just owe it to get a bid and see if it's current, the current pricing, because it's tough out there. And I think this is an area that I would like to have it reviewed.
I agree.
Yep.
Agree.
Motion.
I was say, are you looking for a motion? I'll make a motion.
Direct the administrator or in
Yep,
working, yeah.
perfect. I'll make a motion to direct the village staff to draft the next steps for bidding out attorney representation for the municipality
Second.
2021, yep.
for 2021. Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to take that next step forward in getting the legal contract for legal counsel for the village, get that motion in action, or that process in action for 2021. Discussion?
I just don't, I don't want to hurry this.
I agree.
And I know we got January 1st is coming, I think, a couple more work days. I don't want to rush this. And like the question that Ann had was a good question. And I know we'll have the representation up till the time we make a change, if we make a change. And, but I just want to make sure that we take real prudence in going through and looking at representation, because this is 2021, and we just went through a hell of a 220, and things are changing. And I want to make sure that we're taking advantage of getting the best representation for our people.
I agree.
agree.
Yep.
Yeah, well said.
Plan for the next board meeting,
Yeah,
craft a plan for the next village board.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
And
plan
that's
of
what- yep.
attack, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
first, we'll catch, is there any other discussion? I have something I'm gonna throw in, but if anybody has.
I guess it's kind of generalized. It has not necessarily due to this particular one, but just in general, we talk about contracts and we had the engineer. And I know we're talking about, yeah, well, let us know. Is it feasible that starting, I mean, it's short notice here, but January 1 or our next meeting, here's a list of all the contracts that are up in 2021, whether it's June, July, and we have it in advance, and then we talk about it, you know,
Good
well,
idea.
but at least we can see on here what's all entailed for 2021 versus kind of like winging it at the last
2
minute.
weeks
but-
before we get
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
And then we know, okay, in June, we got something, so we all kind of know we can put it on our own calendars, you know, or, you know, for discussion, but we get a heads up a little.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. We tried that a little bit, but I think we absolutely have to do that because otherwise, you know who gets stuck in the back end is us.
Right.
Staff knows when these things are. I mean, I looked at the Legion contract for the parking lot.
Yep.
You email it to staff, they have it for you in like a half hour. They have all these and they know when they are,
Right.
but I guess just so Tim knows, we've never been given that information. I think it'd be a good policy that at the beginning of the year, we know every single one and every single date that these things are up so that we can get ahead of it. I do.
Especially if we're the ones that are expected to make, kind of decisions on the next steps.
Right.
It would be nice for us because then we could have some sort of presentations planned out. We could then talk to department heads that are working
Right,
within these
right,
contracts and get a better
Yeah. We get
360
feedback.
type of,
Just-
feedback. A great suggestion, Trustee Connor.
Just keep in mind, the attorney, there is no contract with the attorney. It
Right,
was
this
just
is
their
just the-
annual letter
Right,
saying,
right.
We're keeping the prices for next year. That's all that was. That is a municipal attorney is an entity you don't have a contract with
Right.
because that would be really awkward to try to break that contract
Well, yeah,
with your own
exactly.
attorney.
I guess it's just, you know, that just as a
But yes,
FYI, you know, just, or remember, say at the end of the year,
That's
that
right.
this is,
Other
so
contracts,
we just get a heads up.
definitely.
Okay.
President, do we have to take action on the engagement letter in the packet though? Because my motion is not in regards to the engagement letter. Just question. I'm not sure.
I don't believe that we do have to take action on the engagement letter.
The intent was to see what the board wanted to do
Okay.
moving forward. That's
Okay.
what the intent
Possible
was.
action.
Yeah,
I think the possible action was, it's letting us know
Perfect.
that at the end of the year, if we wanted to say, hey, we're cutting you loose, we could, technically we could.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Staff has been given the direction, and we'll bring it forward at the next meeting. Now we have a discussion and consideration of a motion to approve the Village of Hartland Professional Police Association Annual Wage Reopener Agreement.
All right, before you, I did include the whole contract, although maybe a little overkill. There's just one page in there, I believe the fifth page, talks about the annual wage reopener. It is a multi-year agreement. We are coming into 2021 will be the final year of the agreement, so the entire agreement will need to be renegotiated at the end of the year. But each year, to avoid the whole opening it all up and talking about all the different points, very common to just have a wage reopener inserted in the agreement, and so they executed their request to have a wage reopener. We did sit down and meet. Following past precedent, I believe, of several years, the police union was interested in a number similar to the general employee wage increase. Didn't ask for more, didn't ask for less. We did go through the performance review process that did reveal a 2.3% general employee wage increase. So they did ask for that. Now that is before this body to talk about whether, if that is a number that's acceptable for that wage reopener.
So you're asking if we want to accept this, or that we want to start opening it up
No,
and
no.
discuss it for
We-
the future?
We did sit down with them, and that's what we bargained, which was a 20-minute bargaining session for that dollar amount, for 2.3%, which does fall in under the budget of, well,
what we budgeted for the 2021 budget.
It's the same raise as the rest of the staff
Yeah, I
across the
don't
board got.
have any issues with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've sat there.
I'll make a motion to approve the Village of Heartland's Professional Police Association Annual Wage Reopener Agreement.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the Hartland Professional Police Association Annual Wage Reopener Agreement. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Announcements. Any announcements? Chief?
Got a quick one that Administrator Rhode already mentioned, but to stay up to date with what Trustee Connor had just requested is we will have obviously the police contract coming due at the end of this year, so 2021, or it will be the last year of a 3-year contract. And as Administrator Rhode already talked about, is they always keep the wage reopener every year to open up to be consistent with what staff have always gotten, which is not the norm when it comes to union contracts. Typically, they try to lock in for those 3 years at what they feel to be the most advantageous percentages would be. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I think this is a really fair way of doing it with the annual reopener. But then next year, we'll actually have to look at the entire contract, and I think there's just be a couple things we have to clean up a little bit just on some language things, but overall, I think it works well for everyone involved. I know Trustee Doro was with me on our first one when I first got here a couple of years ago, and again, I would open that up if a board member wants to sit on some of those discussions. I don't get very much into the weeds. It's actually Administrator Rhode and the association, but obviously the administrator and I talk through operational matters. But that's just the way it typically is negotiated through the village administrator and the union. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just a couple updates. Christmas Day, we had a structure fire up on East Imperial. I was off on vacation that day, so I had my deputy chief and 2 division chiefs that ran the scene. I listened because my wife went up there, so, but they did a great job. We had mutual aid from Lake Country, Town of Delafield, Merton, Lisbon, and Western Lakes. Held it to 1 room and some water damage, which is normal. So our ladder, I got an email end of last week, should be back the week of January 11th. So they're putting an APU in it this week, and then it goes back and they put all the lights and all the other stuff back on it after painting and get it ready for us. So, and then also one of the last emails I got today was from the state on our vaccine, being able to give the vaccines. So that process is starting. I was warned I was probably going to get this one 2 weeks ago, and I got it finally. So hopefully that process continues. It's been 4 weeks since the county chiefs had applied, and as of last week, there were only 2 departments that had started working through the 5-day process to get it accepted. So as soon as we get the okay on that, we'll get going on that for us. So
Good. Thanks, Chief.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Just real briefly, we did have some COVID up in the front office, so we did get everyone tested and to their comfort level, and then are closed, kind of doing a skeleton crew here to the end of the, Tuesday, Wednesday, and half-day Thursday, making sure that the tax payments come in, get processed on the right year, all that stuff, and then we should be back to some kind of normal schedule following the new year, depending upon how many other people may or may not get sick or how that all comes together. So appreciate the flexibility, and we've been using social media, and we've got the signs, and so far so good. People are, with COVID, learning to be very flexible in adjusting to that. So that's kind of our front office update for now.
Anybody else got any?
Nope, I'm good.
Happy New Year, and 2021 is coming, everyone.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I don't have, I mean, the only, tax bills, the village is, you're gonna see it differently when you come in, because as Administrator Rhode said, there was a couple of, we're working through the COVID. We don't want anybody to get sick, but you can still come in and at least drop them off and get a mailed receipt. And then, the only other thing that people would have to come in for would be to, drop off, election papers if you're gonna run for election. But maybe you can hold those off until Monday of next week, and you actually have all day Tuesday until 5 p.m. to get those turned in, so.
Or can call and set up an appointment.
Or call and set up an appointment. I don't have a whole lot more. Anybody else got any announcements?
Yep.
Nope.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
No,
Nope.
No?
don't second. Huh? This, yeah, the next item I'm just gonna read it with this. The next item we have is consideration of a motion to recess to closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility regarding the village administrator, and to adjourn thereafter without reconvening into open session pursuant to 19.952.
I'll make a motion to move into closed session under statute 19.85.
It's been moved and seconded to go into closed session to, talk about the village administrator. And his performance. We need a roll call vote for that. Darlene, you want to call the roll?
She's sleeping.
No, we may have just had a internet dropout here.
Oh, there it goes.
It just crashed at exactly the wrong time for you.
Trustee Anson.
Aye.
Trustee Doral.
Aye.
Trustee Meyer. Trustee Lukey.
Aye.
Trustee Connor.
Aye.
President Fannerstill.
Aye. So we'll take a brief break here, as Ben clears the room, and
I'm gonna call Ann on the